And now, Boys Under the Hood with James Stevenson and Pat Kelly.
Everybody know me, probably saw me half cocked, drunk high in the club, about to get it hot. No.
Where do you find these songs?
I don't even know what that song is.
All up in the club.
How you doing? Up in the club, this Izzy.
Yeah.
What's going on, James?
Yeah. Another Tuesday morning, man.
James Stevenson from Precision Auto Repair. It is getting a little bit cold out there. Man, making it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, before we start today, I've got something for you. It's going to be a really big day. the chocolate
peanut butter Cheerios. Oh, thanks, man.
The number one ingredient in those, by the way, is whole grain. I know that you try to stay fit. You go to the gym all the time. I want to make sure that will change your life. We talked about the banana milk.
They will. Chocolate peanut butter, geez.
So now, what is this?
It's an amazing day.
So they have chocolate banana milk now.
So they have like this. I think it's called like Mr. Bananas, and it's banana milk, but it's not like you can't milk a banana.
Right, obviously.
So I think it's like milk and banana. And then one day I think I text you a picture of the chocolate one.
Have you tried the chocolate one yet?
Amazing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, made me not even think about the regular banana milk anymore.
Chocolate banana milkshakes. You just dumped the old banana milk. Didn't even think about it like an X.
It's like having it's like being able to just pour a glass of milkshake anytime you want. It's definitely life changing.
Chocolate banana milk.
Yeah,
I'm
it's life
excited
changing
about
for
it.
sure.
Boys Under the Hood, we are answering car questions. James Stevenson from Precision Auto Repair in West Springfield, joining us every Tuesday right around this time. And people are digging this. I'm happy to see that you're getting some really good response from people excited to hear that we have this segment on the radio.
You know, people, it's just such an unknown. You know, what's wrong with your car? How did something break? Why does something break? What do they really need to do? That type of thing. So I guess we underestimated the need for something like this because the questions are just, it's almost overwhelming at times, you know, but it feels really good to be able to answer these questions and help people throughout the week. So I think that we'll have to create like a second forum to be able to answer a lot of the questions because we can't get to them all, you know.
You can submit your question on Facebook at the Precision Auto Repair page or at Lazer99.3.com. Let's begin. Mary H. from Long Meadow drives a 2014 Range Rover. Her question is, thinking about getting rid of my truck and getting something new. There's nothing wrong with it, but I've heard that after a few years, these Range Rovers implode. Generally speaking, how do I know when to get a new vehicle? I mean, do Range Rovers have that reputation?
I guess it's always a common misconception that vehicles kind of have a shelf life. A properly maintained vehicle, in most situations, a properly maintained vehicle will last, a few 100,000 miles, right? You'll encounter some repairs here and there, but most of those repairs won't come up unexpectedly. I guess it's all about your threshold. So if you are someone that just, you want to do your basic oil changes and things, and then, if a large repair, $1,000 repair or something like that pops up, and that's not something that you're going to want to get into, I can tell you with that, was it 2014 Range Rover, if something goes wrong, it can get expensive. The reality is that parts, that are on a vehicle over 100,000 miles begin to wear, and stuff is going to wear out at a faster rate than they would when the car had 10, 12, 15,000 miles on it, right? It's just not as surprising at over 100,000 miles. So you will have some repairs come up, but whatever shop that you're taking that to should be able to spot that stuff before it just kind of pops up on you.
But now this is a 2014
yeah.
too. She's driving the hell out of it if she's got over 100,000 miles on it already.
Yeah. I mean, and that's not all that uncommon. People drive 15, 20,000 miles a year now, but vehicles are also made a lot differently than they were in, the 60s and 70s. They're made for longer commutes. They're made for higher mileage. It's just, again, it's all about your threshold, right? If we always ask a customer, before they put $1 into the car, do you love the car? Do you like it? Are you in love with it? And some people will have a car that maybe you and I wouldn't want to drive, right? It's not a great car. It's a bad color. There might be something. It's just not a desirable vehicle, and they need to put a good amount of money into it. You and I would say, no, you know what? I don't want to, but somebody may have passed that car down to them, or there's just some sentimental reason why they like the car. So some people's threshold with a vehicle is much higher than others. I personally have a high threshold because I just don't like getting like a daily driver again. I like hobby cars, so I don't mind getting a new one of those every week if I could. But
Right.
you know, I guess it's just everybody is different. As for you, just make sure you maintain your vehicle. I'm sorry, what was her name? Mary. Mary, as long as you just continue to maintain your vehicle at a shop that knows how to maintain those, you know, just keep up on your services and, you know, keep doing that stuff. You'll make sure that, you know, at least lower your chances of having some type of major unexpected thing just kind of implode on you.
It's funny how you mentioned the difference between cars today and cars then, because it used to be, man, I've got 100,000 miles on my car. It's up to 100,000.
Yeah.
And I think I got 165 on mine right now.
Yeah, they'll go.
Huh.
You know, I think the highest mileage vehicle that we service has a little over 500,000 miles on
Get
it.
outta here.
Yeah, it's a Nissan Pathfinder.
Wait,
Yeah.
what year is that?
It's 2001 or 2002
A half
or
a
something.
million miles?
500,000 miles. The guy's in the vehicle constantly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you, buddy.
Yeah.
Talk about keeping it maintained.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's not like if you looked at it, you wouldn't think it was, you know, a 500,000 mile vehicle either.
Wow.
You know? Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Let's talk about Sue from Agawam, who is driving a 2014 Audi. She says, my car is in the shop now getting spark plugs and some other stuff. The shop is nice. I have no reason not to trust them. But after they told me I needed spark plugs, they called an hour or so later saying I need some other cover gasket because the spark plugs are filled with oil and it's like 7 hours more. I really have no reason not to trust them, but it's my first time at the place. And while the repair might be legit, I feel like something is off. How did the shop only find this after, or am I being taken for a ride? Now, before you answer this, she also adds, love, love, love the show. Something like this is long overdue. Appreciate that.
All right, thanks, Sue.
Okay.
All right, so the short answer, just make them prove it to you, right? We live in a day of, or an age of all kinds of technology. Everybody's got a smartphone in their pocket, or, you know, if you're at a shop, the technicians have them on their toolbox. A lot of shops have these things called digital inspections. Years ago, a technician used to have like a piece of paper, and he would check boxes, right? So there would be red for something that needed to be done now, yellow, oh, it can wait a little bit, and green, it's good.
Right.
And they would just check that stuff off. Now they have these digital inspections where techs will walk around with, you know, an iPad or a, you know, phone, and they'll actually take pictures. So they'll say, hey, Pat, you need tires, and here's a picture of your tire, and, you know, they can point out where it's worn a little bit unevenly. Same thing with any type of fluid leaks and stuff like that.
Now, will you be able to see the oil in the spark plug if they say that there's oil present there?
So there's not going to be oil in the spark plugs. What she's describing there is something that's very common. There's these, the spark plugs kind of go in through the top of the engine, so to speak.
Right.
All right. And there's these little gaskets. They're called tube seals, and the tube seals begin to leak. What she's describing is a valve cover gasket leak. So they would need to remove the valve cover to replace those tube seals. They're little round seals, but there's no way to replace them unless you remove that valve cover. Those tube seals leak. It's very common. I think we saw one yesterday, and what happens is the oil will leak down onto the top of the spark plug, and it actually begins to fill that hole. And the reason they probably didn't see it beforehand was because you don't always check spark plugs before, say, recommending them. And I know that may sound crazy, but again, we go back to the manufacturer's scheduled intervals, right? So in this case, Audi made the vehicle, and they said, hey, look at, you know, such and such mileage, you need to replace your spark plugs. So a lot of shops will recommend based on that. Same thing with the dealership and so on, right? It's preventive maintenance. You don't want to repair after something's broken. So they may have just recommended it. Hey, look, you've got, you know, 100,000 miles on your vehicle. You're overdue for spark plugs, and you know, if you want to go ahead and do them, we can. Then the tech starts to take the spark plugs out and finds that things are saturated in oil. It's not really a mistake. It's just he started taking the vehicle apart and found there was another issue.
Sometimes you don't know what's in there until you start picking it apart. I mean, it's obviously
in a
the
lot of
challenge
cases,
of your business, right?
Yeah, you know, and you know, a customer, say, that brings a vehicle into a shop they've never been before. I can understand if there's not a level of distrust, but there's no trust yet. There's no relationship. They went to them, they're feeling them out,
Right.
and then they call and they say, hey, look, it's going to be 7 more hours for this. I can understand how that could look to someone in general. I can understand how it would probably look to me if I didn't know the industry. But the reality is, once you start pulling that stuff apart, you don't know what you're going to find. You know, especially if you don't service the vehicle regularly, we found all kinds of crazy stuff in cars. You know, once you start taking things apart, you never know until you're there.
Have you ever just found something and be like, oh my God, what is happening with this person right now? Do you ever just scratching your head that someone is not doing basic maintenance?
So it's not so much basic maintenance. I mean, we've had cars where we've made people tow them out. The vehicle is just incredibly unsafe. The person comes in, say for a light bulb, and this is actually something that really happened. A guy came in one morning, and it was before we even got there. They were waiting for us.
No, you love that.
So no big deal. You know, he was from out of the area, and he got a ticket locally for having a light bulb out. So he asked us to pull the car in. He wanted us to replace his light bulb, and he said he had a slow leak in one of his tires. When we put the vehicle up in the air to remove the tire, to plug it, we found that the vehicle was just, I mean, really, really unsafe. There's no other way to emphasize that. And he had 3 kids with him, and him and his wife in this minivan. I don't know. I didn't really feel good about it.
That's a tough situation.
You know, we didn't make the guy tow the vehicle out or anything like that, but, you know, you've got to really make arrangements with him to, or a plan to make sure that he at least gets that vehicle safe so that he can get to his destination. I mean, I believe they were going back to Pennsylvania, and that's not a short trip. But if people knew, like you look on Facebook and everybody complains about the new inspection system. You know, and I understand that it is a little bit of a pain. But if people knew how many cars were like really, really unsafe driving around every single day, the car next to you, the car passing you, you know, at night, that's speeding or whatever, you know what I mean? You're on that narrow road and he's going the other way and that car's unsafe. Like you wouldn't believe how many cars are really, really unsafe and people have zero desire to fix them. You know what? I'll get to it later, and especially, you know, this time of year because priorities, you got to get your Christmas presents and stuff, you know? And it's not all people.
Right.
It's really not. I'm not saying nobody fixes their cars and you know, but you'd just be surprised how many cars out there are really just like really unsafe. And I think the new inspection system will definitely help because there's no way that it's very difficult for something to slide by now. You know, it builds another level of accountability.
Well, that's part of it too. And I've heard people complain about the new inspection system because the truth is, it used to be really easy to just bypass it. Hey, man, I know somebody who can get you a sticker.
Right.
You know, and when you're talking about safety on the road,
yeah,
you know, it's as much as you grumble because it takes a long time. I think they need to videotape them now too. Yes.
I think they videotape them. They have they have cameras in the bays, and then they have little body cameras on, and you know, I guess I don't think anybody actually watches every single inspection. I think it's just they take a sample.
Right, they'll
So say
audit it once in a while.
Exactly. I went to Pat's inspection station, and he did 100 inspections this week, and we're going to look at 3 of them. And then they just want to make sure that you're doing what you need to do.
And because Pat Kelly inspected them, 99% of them failed.
Yeah.
But they all got stickers.
Yeah.
Right? You're listening to Boys Under the Hood. This is James Stevenson from Precision Auto Repair in West Springfield. You can submit your car-related questions, and we'll take anything, maintenance, repairs, Lazer99.3.com, or just log on to Facebook and click on the Precision Auto Repair page and submit your question there. Let's do another one. We have Shauna from West Springfield who has a 2002 Toyota Corolla. She writes, no issues. I'm just always unclear on what I need to do to get my car tuned for winter. My mechanic always tells me that I'm all set. I feel silly prodding him for specifics, but I don't know you and you don't know me, so that's why I'm asking. That's great. She also goes on to say, I also want to donate some jackets for the coat drive if you're still accepting them. You still taking jackets?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, we can touch on that in a second. All right, Shauna. So that's a great question because obviously this morning it was pretty cold. You know, a couple weeks ago we talked about how long you should warm your vehicle up for, and everybody thinks it's, you know, a half hour. Like if you have to restart your car starter, it's probably a little bit too long. You know, vehicles are meant to warm up a little bit faster now. But having said that, a properly maintained vehicle is made to warm up, you know, just a matter of a few minutes. All right, so your mechanic may be right. If he's servicing the vehicle regularly, then you should always be up to date on service, right? There shouldn't be this last minute, oh my goodness, it's 30 degrees out, scramble to go and get your car winterized. There are additional checks that need to be done, but you know, if we see a vehicle and we know that the customer's not going to come in for 6 months and we see him in September when it's still 85 degrees, we're still checking it over for 30 degree or minus 20 degree weather. I mean, whatever the swing would be in New England. So, you know, he may be right, and I'm sure he's a very competent guy. You should, you know, if you go to him, you should trust him. And if you don't trust him, figure out why you don't, see if you can work with them, and then from there, maybe if you need to find another shop, that's fine. But I would trust him. If he says that you're all set, he's probably been looking at the thing properly. The winterizing, again, it shouldn't just be a last minute thing. And things that, just so you know, things that you're going to want to look at are going to be very basic things. Tires, right? A lot of people like to switch over to a snow tire. That's fine. That's great, because summer tires, if you have like just a directional summer only tire, a highway tire, you're going to have horrible traction in the snow, and ice and things like that. So the snow tires will be able to help you out a little bit. Have somebody check over your suspension, check over your alignment, check over all that stuff underneath the vehicle, your exhaust, make sure there's nothing hanging down, because you're going to be going through snow, and things that are loose and hanging down are going to get ripped off.
Right.
Maintenance, so things like your wipers, right? You want your wipers to work, and then snow and ice puts a real beating on wiper blades. So it's a good idea to have those things checked. And then obviously all your fluids, your oil for level and condition, coolant, protection, and just because your coolant says it's good to 100,000 miles, you still want to have that checked. If it's 80,000 miles and your coolant is testing poor or it's dirty or something, it may be an indication there's something else wrong. So while I'm not trying to just like preach to you and keep talking at you, there's a lot of little things that need to get done, and maybe your mechanic is just trying to just minimize the situation. I'm sure he's on the ball. I'm sure he knows what he's looking at. Another thing that we tell a lot of our customers to put in their cars, a blanket, right? Because you never know if you happen to maybe break down unexpectedly and you're going to have to wait half hour, 45 minutes or something for a tow. When it snows, it's very difficult to get a tow because, those guys are out, straight out. So, a blanket. Another thing that I put in my wife's car, and then even my own vehicle, kitty litter. Right, it gives you a little bit extra traction
under the wheels. Yep.
You can pour just a little bit of kitty litter, and then a road flare. Sometimes when the snow is really, really coming down, very heavy, you may be stuck or something's going on. You'll just blend right in with the rest of the snow, and somebody might, be apt to kind of plow into you.
I like to keep a blanket in my car year round anyway, because if it's like summertime and I'm out on a date and she's like, "No, we can't do this in the woods," I'm like, "Honey, I brought a blanket. This is gonna be perfect."
Oh no!
What are you talking about? Are these mics on? Seriously, one of the things I did want to ask you, and this is just my curiosity, weights of oil, 10W40, 10W30, 5W30. What's the difference of them, and when should you use them throughout the year? Should you change the grade of oil that you use going into winter?
So some vehicles require you to change them based on temperature. Let me start by saying that, 530, 520, 020, and all that stuff, those are all just different thicknesses of the oil, right? Viscosity. The manufacturer of the vehicle will determine, or they'll tell you which oil is going to work best for you. From there, certain manufacturers will say, "Hey, look, if it's between 20 degrees and 40 degrees or something like that where you live, then you need to use this thinner oil." Or, if it's really hot and you live out west and these are your temperatures, then you may need to use this thicker oil, and so on. So it's all in your owner's manual. And if you don't want to read your owner's manual, the shop that you go to, as long as you go to a legitimate shop, they will know which oil is best to be used. And also driving style, right? Driving habits and so on. We have some customers that we change the grade of oil or even the quality of oil, right? So from like a regular oil to a synthetic based on driving habits. Somebody drives a lot more. If they may be better suited with like a synthetic oil because they can put a few more miles on it. It's definitely a much better oil. That's it. Yeah. Oil's pretty basic stuff. It's just the numbers are just for the thickness of the oil.
And I would recommend, obviously, manuals now are about 4 inches thick, but you'll find the repair and maintenance schedule is usually toward the back of it, right before the glossary.
So you'll have the glossary. Yeah, that'll itemize where everything is page by page.
Right.
So if you try to flip through one page at a time, you're going to be there for quite a long time. And a lot of these manuals now actually come on like a CD. So you can just pop your CD into your computer. I mean, do computers even have CD-ROMs anymore?
I don't even know. Mine accepts floppy disks.
Floppy
still.
disks, yeah.
I like that idea about the flare. I'm going to use that on my next picnic date. She's going to be like, "Why are you bringing out the flare? It's for me, honey."
Just trying to blind her so she can't see you.
Want to turn a 6 into a 9? Pull out the flare and blind her like that. Okay, Do we have? Are we finished with the questions? Do we?
Shauna just asked too about the coat drive.
Oh,
so
yes.
we started at the beginning of October a coat drive to benefit children of the West Springfield school system. We are looking for lightly used and hopefully new jackets for teenagers and so on, sweatshirts, hats, gloves, that type of thing. There's a lot of families that are not showing up, but moving to West Springfield that were displaced from Hurricane Maria, Hurricane Irma, and we're seeing a lot of those people come to town, which is wonderful. But if they're used to 85, 90 degree weather, the chances of them having a winter jacket are very slim. So we'd be happy, and I'm sure the West Springfield school system would be very happy if you could drop those off at the shop. If you have ones that you're not wearing, don't take the coat off of your back. But if you have stuff sitting in your closet and you've been meaning to clean it out, please clean it out, drop it off at the shop.
I love that you're doing that, man. That's
Thanks.
pretty cool. Let's pick a question of the week.
Okay.
What do you think?
Shauna's question.
Yeah, I like Shauna's question also. Shauna with the asking about the winterizing and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that's a great question.
Let's go ahead and give it to her. She's got the 2002 Toyota Corolla. She might be able to use that gift card
use it
anyway,
eventually.
right?
Yeah, those are great cars. Yeah, Shauna, come on down, pick up your $25 gift card and drop us off some jackets. That'd be great.
Yeah. James, I appreciate you dropping by.
No problem.
And thank you for the collecting the jackets.
Thank you for these Cheerios. These things aren't going to make it to the office. I'm going to start eating these almost immediately.
I'm telling you,
Actually.
the second best thing about those is, once you start mixing them with the milk, you get to the end, you got the peanut butter chocolate milk,
Yeah.
you just drink that right after the Cheerios.
Gift that keeps on giving.
It's going to change your life, man. James Stevenson, Precision Auto Repair. Thanks for dropping by, buddy.
Thanks, Pat.
See you Tuesday.